The first question that I love to ask is, what is the purpose of your office? Are you bringing people into the office for the right reasons? Are you providing offices that have a purposeful, human-centric design? Are you building spaces that actually cater to the needs of your employees, to the way that they work? Because if you're going to have employees that are coming into the office and they hate the space, they're going to resent it. They're not going to want to come in. But if they have a great experience, they have value in coming in, they have spaces that actually cater to their working styles, that's going to be a significantly more positive environment. So it's really about learning and understanding what are those human patterns of behavior or what are those trends? How do we cater to the needs of our employees and bring them into the office that's going to give them that value?
Welcome to Connected FM, a podcast connecting you to the latest insights, tools, and resources to help you succeed in facility management. This podcast is brought to you by IFMA, the leading professional association for facility managers. If you are ready to grow your network and advance in your career, go to ifma.org to get started. In today's episode, host Wayne Whitzell, the second vice chair of IFMA's Global Board of Directors, interviews Katerina Karasyova, who was recently named an IFMA Global Influencer. Together, they explore the multifaceted world of facility management, focusing on the importance of professional associations like IFMA, the dynamics of hybrid work, and the critical role of data-driven design in enhancing employee experience. They also touch on Katerina's personal journey within IFMA, emphasizing the value of networking, mentorship, and community support in professional growth. Now, let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Wayne Whitzell, and I am here today joined by Katerina Karasyova.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk with you because you may not know this, but I knew you from emails and from working with the Canadian chapters on a series of presentations I did a couple of years ago, but I never got to meet you or see you in person until IFMA Fusion. Again, that's a side note, another good reason why Fusion is such a great conference. But you might not know this, but we were in a room. It was a component class that was being taught by Mary and Tresslin. And there was this person chiming in on everything up in the front. And I'm like, this person's got game. You know, and the things you were saying were things that only someone who had been in chapter leadership would say. And you were taking it with, such seriousness, and that you were dropping truth bombs left and right. And of course, you were at the same table that Jeff Williams was. You know, who when he drops a truth bomb, the earth shakes a little bit. And I still remember that. I was like, oh, that's Katerina. And of course, you know, everybody's busy, and then we go on to the next class. So I never got a chance to come up and just say, hey, you know, I really appreciated the things that you said in that meeting. So yeah, that was my first Katerina experience live.
You can definitely count on me not to stay quiet. That is for sure. A lot of people know that, but it's because we're so passionate about what we do, and we absolutely embrace everything that IFMA gives us, and we want to treat it with respect and give back to the community. So it's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, I wish there was a better way than the cliche of you get out of IFMA what you put into IFMA, but it's so true. And it's hard to convey that to someone who hasn't had those relationships with people and reap the harvest from those relationships personally and professionally. So I can sense that in you. You know, you radiate that. So that's something I appreciate. So I want to hear your IFMA journey, where you started and where you are today. Tell me that story.
Well, it's been a really long and wonderful journey of, wow, it's probably going to be almost 11 years soon that I've been part of IFMA. And I'm going to start in a slightly different way, where I had no idea what facilities management was. So it all started with the fact that I got a call from a recruiter saying, hey, do you want a job in facilities management? We saw your resume on LinkedIn, and we saw that you're doing a lot of great things. So do you want to join facilities management? We have a great opportunity for you. And I had to Google what facilities management was. But then I realized that I was doing it for 10 years. So as I got involved, I had incredible people kind of guiding me on my journey from day one. And one of my vendors, within the first week of meeting, we went for coffee, we went for a walk, and they're like, you got to get involved with IFMA. This is an incredible association that's going to give you so much opportunity for learning and growing and mentorship and just really progressing in your career. And I did. I got involved. I got in contact with the Facilities Management Association here in Toronto, IFMA Toronto, my home, my love, my passion. And I immediately got involved. So we started with me coming in as kind of a liaison between membership and YP and really getting excited about bridging that gap and having conversations around the value of the association, the value of networking, and then jumping right into a whole bunch of other opportunities within the board over the last 11 years. But I am probably that cliche, cheesy story, and I shouted off the rooftops. I would not be where I am today in my career without IFMA. Absolutely no way. So it's always a really exciting story to tell. And it's really exciting to work with other young professionals that are trying to learn and grow and really progress in their careers. So it's been fun.
Gosh, you're even getting me misty already. I don't know whether it's because I'm getting older or whatever, but yeah, I mean, because like I said, I can recognize that in you. And that journey, especially starting out as a connection with young professionals, which is so critical among our components to really engage that group of people. So that's your IFMA journey here. We're going to maybe talk about that a little bit more, but okay. So tell us about your professional life now. So now sometimes I say IFMA is my day job. It is some days, as you know,
I know.
but so tell us about your real day job. What is that?
It's a package deal.
Right. It's the sports package.
Exactly
Yeah.
that. No, so right now I work for Free Space. And so we help our clients really understand their space and occupancy and workplace strategy, enhance their employee experience. I never really thought that I would be here in this role, in this world, doing account management and sales. But it was an opportunity that came my way and I got really excited about it. And I've been here for over 3 years now. And the beauty is that I get to work with a lot of clients, but I used to be a client. And so I know the ins and outs of the world. But that's the beauty of IFMA and the connections and networking as well, is you kind of get to learn and understand what those opportunities are in the industry. And it's not one-sided. There's a lot of different things that you can do, and you can shift from being direct FM, which I was for over 8 years, to now being on the support side and supporting FMs and making critical decisions within their work environment. So it's a little bit about where I am today, but I love my clients. I've got amazing global clients and really get in the weeds of helping them understand their workplace strategy and data-driven design and how they can make strategic change and impact the way that their employees work. So it's a different avenue of FM, right? And that's what I love about it, but it's still FM and you're still working in the FM world and you're combining and bridging the gap between other service lines and other departments within those industries as well.
Yeah. I wrote down the word ecosystem when you were talking, because there are some associations which kind of view vendors as a necessary evil. And when I'm shocked sometimes when I go to some of those places, because at IFMA, for the most part, there's a connectedness, there's a synergy, a symbiosis between those and even passing across those lines sometimes is so blurred, especially, with outsourced providers, especially with people that are doing workplace strategy. There's a lot of crossover there. So we really are blended. But this is another great thing about IFMA, is that I always tell people I was very lucky early in my career because my boss bought me full conference passes to World Workplace as a young kid and as an associate member, and he caught grief for it. I mean, they did not want him to do that. This was a long time ago, another place I used to work. And he really stood and said, no, we're going to do this. So I would come back speaking fluent CFM or fluent FM. And, I would talk to FMs in the local market and I would know how they're thinking about things like ROI, about net present value, about how to position certain things. So it was such a value for me. But I know a little bit about what you do in terms of workplace strategy, hybrid, and things like that. So I want to get your opinion on this. The data we're seeing shows, it varies, but like 90% of managers want everybody back in the office full time, and nearly the same number, or even higher in some studies, don't want to come back full time. That's a tremendous spread on data. And part of that, I believe, is that managers tend to be extroverted, or leaders tend to be extroverted, and they need the playground. They need that. It's the same thing as an introvert being forced into a huge social gathering. That's how uncomfortable they are not having people in the office. But talk to me about that disparate nature there between managers and staff, and how we can kind of thread the needle through that, or what's going on in your expert opinion.
Well, the first question that I love to ask is, what is the purpose of your office? Right? What is the employee experience that you're looking to achieve? And there's different parts to it. You want collaboration, you want purpose of people coming into the office. You want them to have value. If I'm going to come into the office and be on calls the entire day, sitting at my desk and not working with others, what is the value of me being there? But if I know that I'm going to have my colleagues there, if I know that I'm going to be able to have natural collisions, great conversations, mentorship and leadership. And I think that's the key piece that we miss out on in a fully virtual world. Coming together, even just for a little bit, having that mentorship, learning from each other, hearing how people speak about different things in the business, getting to know what people are doing, that connection piece is the most powerful thing. But are you bringing people into the office for the right reasons? Are you providing offices that have a purposeful, human-centric design? Are you building spaces that actually cater to the needs of your employees, to the way that they work? Are you understanding what that looks like? Because if you're going to have employees that are coming into the office and they hate the space, they hate the environment, they don't have what they need, they're going to despise it, they're going to resent it, they're not going to want to come in. But if they're coming into the office and they have a great experience, they have value in coming in, they have spaces that actually cater to their working styles, that's going to be a significantly more positive environment. So it's really about learning and understanding what are those human patterns of behavior, or what are those trends? How do we cater to the needs of our employees and bring them into the office that's going to give them that value? So it's really
Yeah.
fun to learn. And no two companies are going to have the same strategy. No two companies are going to have the same approach. But do we know what we are providing? And so it's really fun to get into the weeds of that and work with my
Yeah.
clients to truly understand it, to cater to their needs, to build programs that are unique to their work environment, whether it's through just the data and analytics and capturing that information through sensors and really diving into the metrics and doing a data-driven design, or even taking it a step further and enhancing their employee experience through employee experience apps. So it's really fun to get into understanding the impact of that strategy and then working with our clients to, again, really truly build a program that's going to cater to their employees.
Yeah. As you're talking, it's interesting the mix of words you're using. We have human, people, client, experience, which are all very, organic terms. And then you have data, KPIs, analytics on this. And we're blending these three things. And I think it's a more sophisticated argument than it was 4 years ago, which was, hey, here's a new espresso machine for your people to come. I mean, I was thinking, how bad is your office that buying an espresso machine is going to bring everybody back to the office? Right. So we were talking at such a really basic level then. And now this sophisticated, and it's not just sophisticated on the experience, it's from a very practical standpoint. How do we do just in time inventory for an unpredictable workforce? Do we need this much toilet paper? Do we need this much? I mean, even things like airflow into a facility. I mean, are you overspending on outside air, trying to, from an engineering standpoint?
Well, and I have a great example for that as well. If you're going to have 10 floors and 100 people in an office on a Friday, what's the value for 10 employees being on an individual floor? Why not navigate people to the same area, the same zone? They have buzz, they have culture, they have an opportunity to have those water cooler talks with their colleagues and learn something new. And you, as an operator, have an opportunity to close those floors, do operational maintenance, do inspections, save money on cleaning by reallocating those resources. So there's so many ways that we can get creative with our spaces. But again, it comes down to understanding our employees, understanding the need, having the data behind how is the space actually being used every single day of the week, and then leveraging that information for those strategic decisions. So it's fun.
Yeah. No, so hearing you talk, you're coming from the position of a SME, a subject matter expert. And one of the things I've noticed, there's certain things, we get a little bit older, we get some experience. We're subject matter experts. We put in our 10,000 hours or 100,000 hours in something. And there's a few things like that I have that expertise in just by virtue of having done it for so long. And when I hear some folks talk about things sometimes, and I'm sure that you've experienced this as a subject matter expert, is you'll hear people arguing a point or saying things and they're wildly off base or they don't have all of the information. And I bite my tongue a lot and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to just enter in and jump in here and correct this. But I in your world there, so if you were listening to a couple of people, what is the most common misinformation going around about this concept of hybrid work or workplace strategy? What do you often hear people talking about, or where they're maybe missing the bullseye, or where they're off the mark, or working with misinformation? Where would you like it if you had a magic wand and could just wave it so everybody knew something that they don't know now? What would that thing be?
So, from my perspective, it's more so looking into the overall grand scheme, the story of the office. What is that story? Because you're going to have all of these incredible data sets that you're capturing within the space. And, space and occupancy is one of them. All of your employee feedback is another piece. Are we closing those feedback loops? Are we actually combining the data together to truly understand what is the story of the office? What are you doing with the information that you have to enhance that employee experience? And are you closing that feedback loop with employees? I think that's the one piece that I always tend to see people not really complete is they're doing all of these changes. They're listening, they're learning, they're using data. But are we sharing that knowledge with employees and explaining to them what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it and what's the impact to them as an employee? Because, hey, we've listened to you. We've done all this research. We've invested a lot of money to enhance your experience. And this is why we've made these decisions. You're never going to satisfy absolutely everybody, but maybe you're going to make it sting a little bit less if you explain why you're making the changes that you're making.
Mhm.
And I think that's a really key piece in everything that we do. It's that change management, that communication, and really effective communication, and building that culture of transparency, of trust, and knowledge sharing within the organizations as well. Because we have all of this amazing data in every single one of our buildings. We're making all of these strategic decisions. Are we sharing that?
Yeah, that, again, there's just so much that we're talking about, a human aspect here. And I guess that old story about the one-eyed person in the land of the blind is king. And that, I think, those people that speak human, right, that go forward having the ability to connect with other people for both change management, just for leadership. I think as we incorporate more texting, more artificial intelligence, is that, I guess my phrase is, there was an album I really like. It's called Amused to Death. And the album was released as a burgeoning technology. And it was, we get all this technology, eventually humanity is going to amuse itself to death. Well, I think now we might be in a situation where we're optimizing ourselves to death. And I think, right? And the person who can cut through all of that and incorporate what's necessary, but connect with other people on a human level and develops that skill and marries those things together, like you're saying, because every time you say something, you're marrying this concept of humanity with data. And that's a special skill set. And I think that, when you talk about workplace strategy, so many FMs I know, and I'll just talk even components, are operating in a very tactical way and not from a strategy, and not from, because the first thing you said was you need to look at the whole organization and you need to understand it. And I read into that, what's your why? Okay. And I'm a big fan of Alana Dunoff. That's no, mystery. And she constantly preaches that, because we both are Simon Sinek fans as well, where that comes from. But I think starting with that why and then developing everything from there is so critical in just about everything that we do in life. But we're so in a cold sweat as FMs that we're in a tactical nightmare sometimes, that we don't have time to get outside and above that. So it seems to me that's a really good opportunity for individuals like you who consult from the outside, that can come in with neutral eyes and offer that a pathway for them, assessment and pathway. So do you find that, because an FM is going to say, gosh, I'm already short-staffed, I'm already doing all this stuff, and now you're asking me to go and figure out a way to get these 10 people on one floor and shut down the air on the other 9. This is just complex. So do you find it's your concepts and your outside approach is a welcome thing to the FMs? Do they say, thank you for giving me some framework to be able to talk to my CFO about this stuff?
Running a business is no small job. You've got a million things to manage and people to please. Whether it's healthcare, hospitality, or professional cleaning, ODP Business Solutions is your trusted source for breakroom and cleaning supplies. From cleaning products to healthier snacks, they have what you need to clean smarter, stock faster, and support your team with trusted products, reliable service, and fast delivery. Visit odpbusiness.com to learn more.
The numbers speak volumes. The strategy speaks volumes. And again, once you can quantify the cost savings, the cost avoidances, but most importantly, the impact on employee experience and that human behavior piece, it makes it easy to make that decision and to move forward with it. And it gets really exciting to be able to understand, oh, this is actually what this is going to accomplish. And so I think from my perspective, I'm also coming at it from a viewpoint of I was a client for 5 years. I was a direct FM. I know the impact on employee experience. I know how the buildings run. I used to walk my junior team members when I was an FM that had just started out the building and walk them into the building saying, you're a brand new employee in this space. You're not on the facilities team. You're an actual employee of the company. Walk in and tell me what your experience is walking through the building, going through the experience at the security desk, at the reception desk. What do you see? How do you feel? And that's the mindset that we want to bring to everything that we do, right? It's what is the impact to you as an employee? What is the impact to the organization? What are those things that are going to make our experience better? What's that approach to everything that we do, right? And every person is a big, huge piece of the puzzle, regardless of what they do. And they're part of that team. So how can we make their experience better? How can we make them feel valued with the spaces that we build, with the design that we are very mindful of, with the way that we operate our business, but also are we reinvesting that money that we can save back into the business in a way that's going to, again, enhance and cater to the needs of our employees? So really leveraging that, the ability to automate things. I mean, let's be honest. A lot of our facility managers now are like, automate? I'm in, right? If I can make it easy, if it's simple, I'm in because it's going to enhance my operations. I'm going to be able to find those cost savings and cost avoidances. I can hit my sustainability goals. And so there's a lot of things that we all get excited about. Yes, there's InfoSec reviews and paperwork involved, and you've got to go through the steps of getting the necessary approvals and making it work. But once it's there, it's really exciting to see the impact. But it's one of those things where we get really excited about the technology. And yes, technology can be really overwhelming sometimes, but take the time to learn it, because if you're not going to be a facility manager that's keeping up with the technology, you're going to be left behind.
Oh boy, that's a big truth bomb right there. It really is. I mean, and IFMA is doing a great job. You're seeing it kind of bubble up, and you have great content coming out from Dean, from Ted and Jeff over at the IT community, and people are, and then you also see kind of real, kind of basic level stuff where it's, here's how you start a ChatGPT account. But we have members that are all over that map, and us providing with them with that kind of content is going to be more important going forward. And again, implementing that with a human experience mindset, I think, is so critical. But let me ask you this. So many FMs don't have input, or maybe believe they don't have input in the design phase and that more strategic phase of either designing a space, or even, and let's face it too, many FMs just hermit crab their entire career. They don't have an opportunity to build or design a space. Maybe they do a TI sometimes. How can they advocate for the FM O&M side at the design table, at the A&D table? How can they get involved? Because I often say to FMs, okay, you're complaining, and rightfully so, about some of these choices, but what would you have done had you had a seat at the table? How would you advocate? Do you know how to do that? Do you know how to read plans, et cetera? So how do you envision empowering FMs to go further upstream in this process?
So I'm a true believer that it's our belief that we can't be part of that process. I think to your point, what you said, right? Where there's a will, there's a way. Be vocal. Don't be afraid to speak your truth, something that you're really excited about. Get in front of the right people. Your ideas may not always make change. Your ideas may not always be used, but get yourself in the room. Find a way to express your opinions, to share your experience, your knowledge as the operator of the buildings. I think it comes down to just being true to what you believe, being true to what you know, leveraging the information that you want to share internally and vocalizing it. What is the worst case scenario? They won't listen. They won't do what you're suggesting. but at least you know you've tried. Best case scenario, somebody says, oh, that's a really great idea. Why don't we explore it further? May not be your version of the idea, but your version might inspire something maybe even bigger, maybe even better. But don't be shy. And right now within IFMA, I mean, I've had so many roles within IFMA. I sit on the IT community, but I also chair the Young Professionals
Okay.
Global
Of
Network.
course you do. The squeaky wheel, right? Let's have Katerina do that. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm really excited because we got rebranded this year to a global IP network. And that's one of the things that I always talk about with the young professionals as well is what is the worst case scenario? What's the worst that can happen? You get a no. You don't get a response. Nobody even looks at it. But at least you know you've tried and you got inspired. You looked at something and you had suggested something that may or may not inspire something in the future, may pivot somebody's perspective. And so really just getting outside of your comfort zone, finding those opportunities to share your opinions, to share your knowledge, to share your excitement within the organization, whether it's your direct manager or your manager's manager, or even somebody on the design team directly, if you see them walking by, go sit down and have a coffee with them in the cafeteria. Put a meeting on their calendar for 15 minutes. Worst case scenario, they're going to decline it.
You know,
Best case scenario, they love what you have to say.
yeah. Again, a human skill. I think we're sensing a theme here, Katerina. I remember the first time I brought this subject up to a couple of people, Trina Ellis in Sacramento. She's a VP of Safe Credit Union, and Linda Bissetny, former Chicago chapter president, now incoming president of the CFC. But I was explaining them this concept of not having a seat at the table, and they were looking at me like, what are you talking about? I said, they said, that's never happened to us. We go to the table. So your concept about belief and mindset is they never perceived anything otherwise. They were going to sit down at that table and they were going to say, no, I need more outlets here. That atrium's too high. This is the wrong stone. You've located that pump too close to the wall. That's another 8 hours of wrench time every year for me to fix that and maintain that. And it was just like, this is what I do. So I think you're right about mindset of that, is that it's not necessarily forcing your way into the process, but just as an expectation that, we are going to connect these dots. And the hope was the sustainability movement would do that there would be a circular thinking around all of this. But if anybody's been reading and keeping up with some of Dean's papers on the BLMI initiative and that kind of stuff, and I think that we're starting to see, because of data and the ability to collect this and really get good data and utilize that data, is the circles forming better right now. So it's a good time for those. But let's circle back here to IFMA a little bit, because I've learned so much at IFMA in my career. And I would say that, I'm very fortunate where I work. I have a CEO. He's a lovely man. And he really recognizes the value of IFMA and understands that this is an important piece of our business in doing this. And I know that some people are not that fortunate. Some people don't have that. So there's a lot of young professionals maybe that might not have someone paying for their IFMA membership and so forth. But I like to say that in the past, some other places I worked, I've learned what not to do as a leader. I've learned what not to do. At
Don't
IFMA,
get me
I've always,
started on that
you're
one.
right. There we go. Yeah. I knew you and I had something here. But at IFMA, I've learned what to do.
Yes.
And when you combine those kinds of things, it's really been so helpful. So as a young person who's entering the career field or considering entering the career field, what would you say to them why they should be a part of IFMA, not just a member and checking the FMP box, but why they should be involved in a component?
I tell everybody, regardless of whether you're YP or not,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of whether you're a seasoned professional that's been in the industry for years and years, just never got involved, get involved. Because it's not necessarily just about the knowledge. The credentials are incredible, don't get me wrong, but it's not just about that. It's about the people that you meet along the way, the network of subject matter experts, the professionals. And I truly believe that without the people that were part of my IFMA circle, I would not be where I am in my career. And it's very simple. Jeff being one of them. I mean, he was my instructor for SFP, for FMP, but I could call him and say, hey, I have this situation. I've never dealt with this before. How do I do this? And he would walk me through it step by step. I had incredible people on the IFMA Toronto chapter. Bernice Lilly, who is one of our past presidents and has held every single position possible. I used to do that same thing with her and say, hey, how do I do this? I'm new to the industry. I'm new to this world. She's been an FM for 20 plus years. Help me out here. Help me make sure that I am bringing value to my organization, that I'm not missing any steps, and that I am thinking through this in the right way, in a critical way. And the same thing goes to my vendors that not only I used as vendors, but I had the opportunity to build personal relationships with through IFMA, through networking, and through different pieces of the puzzle, essentially, right? Being able to leverage their expertise and say, hey, don't give me any BS. Tell me the truth. What do I need to do? How do I do this? How do I solve this problem? But because I had that personal relationship with them, having that built-in trust and being able to lean on my network to really give me what I needed to do to be successful in my role.
Yeah.
Whether it is when I was a direct FM and even now being able to leverage my network saying, hey, I have a client who has a problem. Can you help them? So
Yeah.
it's the human factor. It's building those relationships. We all know that building our careers is not always about what you know, it's about who you know. Getting in front of the right people, building your brand, really elevating yourself in the industry as somebody who brings a lot of knowledge to the table, a lot of value, and not being afraid to say, I don't know, but I know somebody who does.
Right. Right. That's a skill in itself, is the I don't know, because I think so many times we're afraid to admit that we don't know. And we've got this entire treasure trove of a resource in IFMA, both, the human who pick up the phone and talk to somebody, the knowledge library, IFMA Engage, IFMA Mentor Match. Are we sensing a theme here? There's if you want to plug in here, I think it's just trying to get people over that initial hump of saying, do I reach out? Do I ask for help? But once you tap into, that's all you're going to do. I mean, there's times when I respond to an RFP, I will reach out to an FM and say, hey, how would you like me to phrase this? What would you like to see on this? Because you're in that same kind of a rollover over here. And, I've learned so much just from that. And, if I look at the history of my career, it's almost like, who do you look up to? And that's a great question to ask in an interview, by the way, because if somebody says, Kobe Bryant, or, if I said, oh, I look up to Kit Tuvison, he was my mentor, or I look up to my high school by English teacher, and things like that. These are people that you will remember that made an impact on your life. And I think you and I have benefited so much from these relationships that now we feel we have a moral obligation to do the same for other people. And that's something that's an incredible motivator. And you can't fake that. You can't put the I and the ego in the middle of that equation.
Well, it's giving back to the community that supported you so well on your journey. And just because I'm no longer a YP, even though I lead the team, a little bit over the threshold, it's about giving back to the community. But we all, no matter where you are in your journey, even if you're close to retirement, have so much to learn. And not only from our mentors who are significantly more experienced and seasoned than us, but even from the young professionals and doing that reverse mentorship and learning from our youngsters that are coming up and bringing brand new, fresh ideas to the table, right? So it's really leveraging, again, that knowledge source from the community that you have within the association, really understanding how you can learn and grow and continue to revamp and change your perspective and pivot and shift and make changes that are going to bring incredible value to your organization, to your clients, to your employees, depending on where you are within the industry, whether you're on the direct client side, whether you're on service provider side or vendor side. Really doesn't matter, because you're bringing a lot of incredible value across the board. You're learning, you're gaining that community of people that are subject matter experts that are going to strike inspiration and give you something new to think about as you're thinking through your solutions, as you're thinking through your problems and finding those solutions.
Well, I think that's a great place to end it here, Katerina. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking with you. And Toronto, to me, has always been this really cool chapter. You guys put out a lot of stuff, you do a lot of things, and you can sense there's a camaraderie there among your people. And when you sense that in a component, that there's this kind of thing, this maybe nucleus there that's just radiating out this good stuff, you can sense a healthiness in the component. And I definitely sense that in Toronto. And we really appreciate everything you've done just for IFMA as a whole and the content you guys put out and the support that you give for all the conferences and everything. And for those of you out there considering a conference, and if you're a component leader especially, definitely consider going there. You will meet your peers and you can commiserate, cry, cheer, whatever you want to do about your leadership role. And
Yeah,
Katerina, I'm sure will be there to help you no matter what you need. So
for
Katerina,
sure. And
thank
we
you.
love meeting. It's such a nice little, smaller event that
Yeah.
really truly brings the component leaders together to learn from each other. But Wayne, I will say that one of my favorite things about Toronto chapter is bringing all of our community across the globe together, but most importantly, partnering with just communities and councils and sharing that knowledge internally. So I think it's just doing that, right? Bringing the community together, bringing those fresh perspectives. So we love it.
All right, Katerina. Well, thank you for your time today, and we appreciate it. And can't wait to see you at Fusion or World Workplace.
Yes.
Yes. All
We'll
right.
see you at World Workplace first, but
All
we'll
right.
see you at Fusion too.
See you there. Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for tuning in to the Connected FM podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review the show because it really helps us reach more listeners just like you. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. See you next time.